Have you ever felt a quiet knowing deep within you? A whisper that says, you are far more than this body, more than this mind, more than this life. It comes in flashes, a moment of awe beneath a starlit sky, a sudden sense of peace amidst chaos, or a dream that feels more real than waking life. In those fleeting instants, you touch something vast, ancient, and luminous. Then, just as quickly, the world pulls you back into its noise, and that truth fades, forgotten once again. But what if that whisper isn't imagination? What if it's memory, the echo of a truth humanity once lived by and has since buried beneath the illusion of separation? For thousands of years, sages, mystics, and initiates across every culture have spoken of a divine essence residing within us. The Egyptians called it the Ka, the Hindus the Atman, the Gnostics the divine spark. Each tradition, in its own language, pointed to the same revelation, that the key to liberation does not lie in seeking something new, but in remembering what has always been. This episode is not just a teaching, it's a reawakening. Together, we'll journey through forgotten temples of wisdom, decode the symbols that once spoke to our soul, and uncover the path to remembering who and what you truly are. We'll explore why humanity fell into forgetfulness, why the truth of our divine nature was veiled, and how, even now, it calls to be rediscovered. You'll learn how this remembrance dissolves the illusion of limitation, and how, through conscious practice, you can realign with the source from which all creation flows. This isn't about belief, it's about direct experience. The remembrance of your divine nature is not an idea to adopt, but a state to awaken into. And once you do, life itself begins to unfold in ways that defy logic, yet feel more real than anything you've ever known. So take a deep breath. Let the noise of the world fade, and prepare to remember what your soul has never forgotten. Long before modern civilization measured time in years and empires, there existed cultures who saw the world not as a physical machine, but as a living consciousness. To them, the earth was not a rock in space, it was a sacred being. Humanity was not separate from the cosmos. We were its mirror, its voice, its divine reflection, made flesh. In ancient Egypt, initiates of the Per Ankh, the House of Life, were taught that man was a microcosm of the gods. The hieroglyphs carved upon the temple walls were not mere symbols, but vibrational keys designed to awaken remembrance. They spoke of the Ba and Ka, the twin aspects of the soul, whose union returned one to divine awareness. To know thyself was not philosophical, it was alchemical. It meant to dissolve illusion and remember one's godhood. In the East, the sages of the Upanishads echoed the same truth. Tat Tvam Asi, thou art that. Beneath the shifting forms of existence, there is only one infinite consciousness, expressing itself as all. The Atman, the inner self, is not a fragment of divinity. It is divinity itself, merely veiled by the transient play of Maya, the illusion of separation. The Gnostics of early Christianity, too, carried this flame. They taught that humanity had fallen into forgetfulness, intoxicated by matter, mistaking the shadow for the light. Yet within each soul burned the divine spark, a fragment of the eternal source that could be reignited through gnosis, or inner knowing. Their writings, like the Gospel of Thomas, whisper the same message. When you know yourselves, then you will be known, and you will understand that you are children of the living Father across the ocean. The Mayans spoke of Hunab-Ku, the giver of movement and measure, the one consciousness, manifesting all dualities. The ancient Taoists saw it as the Tao itself, the nameless origin that gives rise to all things. Everywhere, across time and continent, humanity's greatest mystics were telling the same story in different tongues. So what happened? How did this sacred knowledge fade from our collective memory? The fall was not sudden, it was gradual. As human consciousness descended deeper into material awareness, our perception narrowed. The divine, once seen in every tree, every star, every breath, became distant, abstract, externalized. Spirituality turned into religion, and remembrance turned into ritual. The inner temple was forgotten as outer temples rose in its place. But this forgetting was not a punishment. It was part of the cosmic rhythm. For only in the depths of forgetfulness could the journey of remembrance have meaning. Like a divine game of hide and seek, consciousness concealed itself within form so it could rediscover its own infinity. And now, in this era of awakening, the ancient current stirs again. The veils begin to thin. The truths once whispered in mystery schools are rising once more, not as dogma, but as direct revelation. You are not here to become divine. You are here to remember that you already are. To remember your divine nature, you must first understand what caused you to forget. The ancient mystics described it not as a sin, but as a sleep, a sacred amnesia. Consciousness, in its infinite vastness, desired to know itself, not as the boundless ocean, but as a drop, small and separate, so it could experience reunion. Thus, the one fragmented itself into the many. You and I are expressions of that experiment in awareness. Imagine pure light refracted through a prism, each ray unique, vibrant, and beautiful, yet all originating from the same source. Humanity is that spectrum of divine light, exploring itself through contrast. But over time, the rays began to believe they were separate from the sun. They forgot the prism. They forgot the light. This forgetting manifests in countless ways, through fear, through attachment, through the endless chase for external validation. We have become architects of our own illusions, mistaking the reflection for reality. The ego, the sense of I that clings to form, was born as a necessary tool, but it has since become the master. The sages called this Maya, the great illusion. It is not evil. It is the veil of duality that allows us to experience choice, growth, and awakening. In forgetting who we are, we learn to remember more deeply. Just as the seed must forget it is a tree before it can grow into one, the soul must forget its divinity before it can consciously return to it. This remembrance, then, is not about acquiring something new. It is about removing what never belonged. The path to liberation is not one of addition, but of subtraction. Layer by layer, illusion by illusion, we peel away the masks that hide our infinite face. But how does one begin to remember? It starts with awareness, not the mechanical awareness of observation, but the living awareness that watches the watcher. When you close your eyes and observe the thoughts moving through your mind, who is the one watching? That silent presence behind the noise, unchanging, eternal, untouched, is the real you. It does not age, it does not fear, it simply is. In the Katha Upanishad, it is said, "Smaller than the smallest, greater than the greatest, the self dwells in the heart of all beings." That heart is not the physical organ, but the seat of consciousness, the still point within motion. When you rest your attention there, the illusion begins to soften. The divine remembers itself through you. Mystics often spoke in paradoxes because the truth transcends logic. They said, the drop is the ocean, and the ocean is the drop. To the mind, this seems absurd. To the awakened heart, it is self-evident. You are not a soul inside a body. You are the infinite expressing itself as a human experience. Every breath, every heartbeat, every emotion is the divine dancing with itself. Even your struggles, your pain, your doubt, they are part of the unfolding remembrance. For how can one know light without shadow? How can one know infinity without limitation? When you look in the mirror and see a body, remember, it is a garment, not the wearer. When you think a thought, know that you are not the thinker, but the space in which thought arises. When you feel love, recognize that love is not something you generate, it is what you are made of. The secret the ancients knew is that liberation does not come after life, but through life. The mundane is the divine in disguise. Every moment, every breath is an opportunity to wake up, to remember, to see through the dream and realize you were never lost. You were simply playing the game of forgetting so that the joy of remembering could be born. If the first stage of awakening is to realize that you've been dreaming, the second is to understand why the dream exists at all. The universe is not a mistake, nor is your incarnation some random accident in the flow of cosmic time. Everything that exists, from the spiral of galaxies to the beating of your heart, follows a sacred geometry, a divine intelligence expressing itself through infinite forms. Ancient mystics taught that creation itself is consciousness in motion. The Hindu texts call it Lila, the divine play. The Gnostics called it the dance of Sophia, wisdom exploring herself through experience. You are a participant in that cosmic theater, both actor and audience, both creator and creation. But here lies the paradox. How can the infinite experience itself unless it first forgets its infinity? To be everywhere and everything is to know no contrast. So consciousness cloaked itself in limitation, just to feel the thrill of rediscovery. It scattered itself into countless souls, each carrying the same divine seed, each on a journey to remember. This is why suffering, though painful, has always been one of the greatest teachers. The soul evolves not through comfort, but through friction. The challenges you face are not punishments, they are invitations. Every moment of darkness is an opportunity for light to remember its power. Every loss, every heartbreak is the echo of the divine calling you home. In the Hermetic texts of ancient Egypt, it is written, "As above, so below, as within, so without." These words reveal a key to remembrance. The universe is not outside of you, it is mirrored within. What you perceive in the world is a reflection of your inner state of consciousness. When you heal within, the world responds. When you awaken within, reality itself begins to bend in harmony with that awareness. This is not metaphor, it is metaphysics. Quantum physics, in its modern language, has begun to echo what the ancients always knew. The observer and the observed are inseparable. Consciousness does not emerge from matter. Rather, matter crystallizes within consciousness. To remember your divine nature, then, is to reclaim your creative power. You are not a passive witness to reality. You are its co-author. The frequencies of your thoughts, emotions, and beliefs shape the fabric of your experience. This is why mastery of the self is the foundation of all ancient mystery traditions. The true temple is not made of stone. It is the inner sanctuary of awareness. But this remembrance is not instantaneous. It unfolds like the blooming of a lotus, petal by petal, lifetime by lifetime. At first, glimpses come in meditation, in dreams, in synchronicities too precise to dismiss. Then, as your awareness deepens, you begin to live from that remembrance. You see divinity in the eyes of a stranger, in the rhythm of the wind, in the silence between your thoughts. Still, There are guardians of the threshold, forces of resistance that arise not to block you, but to test your clarity. The ego will fight for survival, weaving new illusions of separation. The world may tempt you to forget again through fear, distraction, and desire. But every temptation is simply another mirror asking, will you remember who you are, even here? The great mystery schools of Atlantis, Egypt, and Lemuria spoke of this as the second birth. The first birth brings you into form. The second birth awakens you beyond it. It is not an escape from the world, but a transformation within it. You do not leave the dream. You learn to dream lucidly. And when this remembrance stabilizes, something extraordinary happens. Life ceases to be a struggle. You stop swimming against the current and begin flowing with it. Choices become effortless. Synchronicities multiply. You no longer seek meaning. You radiate it. This is liberation, not from the world, but through it. To walk as the divine in human form, knowing that every heartbeat is the universe remembering itself through you. Mystical truths are beautiful, but they must become living wisdom to liberate consciousness. Remembering your divine nature is not about escaping the human experience. It is about illuminating it. Every day offers portals of remembrance, if you know where to look. Let us begin with the first and simplest practice: presence. Presence is the gateway between illusion and truth. When you still the restless chatter of the mind, even for a moment, you step into the eternal now, the same field of awareness from which all creation springs. The ancients called this entering the kingdom within. To practice, sit in silence and bring your attention to the breath, not as an exercise, but as reverence. Each inhalation is the universe breathing through you. Each exhalation, a surrender to what is. As thoughts arise, do not fight them. Watch them like clouds drifting across the sky of your consciousness. The one who observes them is you beyond name and form. Over time, this simple act dissolves identification with the transient. You begin to experience yourself as the space in which life unfolds, not merely the story being lived. And in that space, spacious, infinite, and still, the remembrance blooms naturally. The second practice is sacred reflection. Each morning or evening, look into a mirror. Gaze into your own eyes, not to judge, but to witness. Beyond the flicker of personality, beyond the narratives of past and future, you will begin to sense a silent radiance. Whisper inwardly, I remember what I am. Stay with that presence until words dissolve and only awareness remains. This was the ancient mirror ritual of the Egyptian adepts, a practice of recognizing the divine spark, looking back through human eyes. The third practice is gratitude as alchemy. Gratitude is not mere positivity. It is a vibrational key. When you express genuine gratitude, your energy harmonizes with the frequency of creation. The universe responds in kind. Begin with the simple, the breath, the light, the pulse of life. The more you recognize the sacred in the ordinary, the more the extraordinary reveals itself. The fourth practice, living remembrance. Carry your awareness into daily life. When you walk, feel the earth beneath your feet as a living being. When you speak, let your words arise from kindness and clarity. When challenges appear, ask, what is this moment trying to awaken in me? Life becomes your teacher, and every circumstance, joyful or painful, becomes a mirror for your divine evolution. You may falter, you may forget, but even forgetting is part of remembering. Each return to awareness strengthens the connection, like tuning an ancient instrument until it sings in perfect resonance with the cosmos. Lastly, practice silence. not as withdrawal, but as communion. In stillness, when thought finally yields to being, the eternal speaks, not in language, but in knowing. It is there you realize you are not remembering something new. You are returning to what has always been here, waiting patiently behind every thought, every heartbeat, every breath. When you live in this remembrance, fear begins to dissolve. You stop chasing wholeness because you recognize you were never broken. The mind bows to the heart, and the divine walks through you as you, effortlessly. This is not fantasy. It is the ancient art of conscious living. And as more of us awaken to it, the collective dream begins to shift. The world changes, not by force, but by frequency. Close your eyes for a moment. Breathe slowly. Feel the rhythm of life moving through you. The same pulse that beats within the stars flows within your veins. The same silence that cradles galaxies listens through your awareness. You were never separate. You were never small. You have only been dreaming that you were. To remember your divine nature is not to abandon the human. It is to sanctify it. Every smile, every tear, every breath becomes a sacred act when seen through the eyes of remembrance. You begin to understand that the divine was never out there. It has always been whispering through your thoughts, feeling through your heart, and walking through your feet. The mystics did not ask us to worship the light. They asked us to become it, to live as conscious extensions of that infinite source, creating with intention, walking in awareness, radiating compassion. Liberation is not the escape from life. It is life lived in full remembrance of what it truly is, a divine dance of consciousness exploring itself. The moment you remember, even for a heartbeat, you become a beacon. Your energy changes, your perception shifts, and your presence begins to awaken remembrance in others. This is how the collective transformation unfolds, not through force or doctrine, but through resonance. One awakened heart ignites another, until the fire of awareness spreads across humanity like dawn, rising after a long night of sleep. So, as this reflection comes to a close, ask yourself, who am I when I am not my thoughts? What remains when every label, every fear, every illusion dissolves? In that quiet space of being, you will feel it, the soft, radiant hum of the eternal remembering itself through you. That is who you are. That is who you've always been. And now, as you step back into the rhythm of your life, carry this remembrance like a flame in the dark. Tend to it, nurture it, and let it light your path. Because when you remember your divine nature, you don't just awaken, you help the entire universe remember itself.